Step back into the charming world of To the Manor Born, 1979-1981, and discover what happened to the beloved cast in 2025. From the witty, aristocratic Audrey, Forbes-Hamilton, to the resourceful, cheeky Richard DeVere, these characters captured hearts with laughter, romance, and a touch of class. But decades later, where are the actors now? How have their lives evolved since the cameras stopped rolling? Join us as we uncover the fascinating journeys, unexpected twists, and current lives of the stars who made this classic British sitcom unforgettable. Prepare for surprises, nostalgia, and a few, did they really, moments. Peter Bowles, born on October 16, 1936 in London, was 43 when he assumed the role of Richard DeVere in To the Manor, born in 1979, portraying a suave, self-made Czech millionaire whose wit and charm clashed deliciously with the aristocratic sensibilities of Audrey. Richard's confident, worldly demeanor made him instantly magnetic to audiences, yet Bowles's real-life personality had edges that rarely softened in public view. He was raised in a working-class household, fractured by financial insecurity, and a volatile father, a childhood marked by strict discipline, scoldings, and early lessons in concealment of emotion. Friends later recounted that young Peter learned to mask hurt with humor, a skill that served him well on stage, but also fueled a lifelong obsession with control. Though widely celebrated for his stage and television presence, Bowles's career was not without turbulence. He gained a reputation for being exceptionally demanding, sometimes pitting cast members against one another and creating tense atmospheres on set. His most notorious professional setback came in the early 1980s when a major international film role was rescinded after directors complained of manipulative behavior, whispered vendettas, and a temper that flared unpredictably. Despite outward appearances of elegance, Bowles struggled privately with perfectionism and reportedly intermittent bouts of alcohol dependency, which he carefully concealed from the public. Romantic relationships were similarly fraught. He was known to be controlling and occasionally dismissive toward his partners, and there were whispered rumors of infidelity and jealousy that strained even his longest commitments. As he aged, Bowles contended with the dual realities of dwindling opportunities and growing isolation exacerbated by estrangement from some of his children, who resented his obsessive ambition and critical nature. He died on March 17, 2022, from cancer at the age of 85, leaving behind an estate estimated between $1 million and $5 million, primarily tied up in property and residual royalties. His legacy is one of paradox, adored by audiences for his charm and elegance, yet shadowed by the unseen tensions, vulnerabilities, and human flaws that drove his relentless pursuit of professional success and social esteem. Daphne Heard, born August 21, 1904 in Plymouth, was 75 when she took on the role of Mrs. Polovica in To the Manor Born, bringing to life Richard DeVere's eccentric, sharp-tongued Czech mother, whose biting humor and old-world mannerisms offered both comedic and emotional depth to the series. Behind the screen, Heard's life was shaped by adversity and resilience. Born into a working-class family, struggling with poverty and social stigma, she faced relentless teasing and condescension from her peers and educators, which fostered both a tenacious spirit and a private bitterness toward those she deemed more privileged. Her career was punctuated by moments of brilliance as well as professional friction. She gained notoriety for confrontations with directors and co-stars, allegedly drinking to steady nerves before performances and engaging in subtle manipulations to assert control over productions. One of her most significant professional blows occurred when she auditioned for a highly prestigious BBC role and was publicly rejected, a humiliation she reportedly never fully recovered from. Daphne's personal life was equally complex. She remained unmarried, though rumors of secretive romantic liaisons with married men circulated within theater circles, often ending in betrayal and heartache. Later years brought further sorrow with the deaths of close family members and a sense of professional marginalization, despite her enduring talent. She passed away on June 22, 1983, aged 78 in London, her estate modest and largely limited to personal possessions and small savings. Despite the apparent ordinariness of her material legacy, Daphne Heard's life was a tapestry of private struggles, persistent ambition, and the subtle, sometimes bitter genius that allowed her to create a memorable and enduring screen presence that belied the loneliness, disappointment, and hidden controversies of her off-screen existence. Angela Thorne, born on January 25, 1939, in Karachi, British India, was 40 when she began playing the whimsical yet sharp-witted Marjorie Frobisher in To the Manor Born. Marjorie's warmth and occasionally meddlesome tendencies provided levity and a human touch to the series, endearing her to viewers who saw in her a loyal and charming friend. Thorne's early life, however, contrasted sharply with the genteel humor she conveyed on screen. Born into a family uprooted by colonial politics, she endured frequent moves and social isolation, compounded by a childhood where emotional neglect and teasing created a lasting sensitivity and guarded personality. Her career in British theatre and television was marked by both accomplishment and private struggle. She was often described as mercurial, prone to outbursts during rehearsals, and intensely protective of her professional reputation. Colleagues whispered about instances where she was accused of undermining co-actors, delaying productions, and cultivating rivalries behind the scenes. Her most publicized setback occurred in the 1990s when a high-profile television role was lost due to reports of diva-like behavior, generating tension with producers and casting directors that temporarily threatened her career. Thorne's personal life mirrored these professional tensions. Her marriage to actor Peter Penry Jones was punctuated by rumors of infidelity and late-night arguments, and her son Rupert's rising fame sometimes strained their relationship, creating a complicated family dynamic. She was known to struggle with insecurity and depression despite outward appearances of composure and sophistication. Angela Thorne passed away on June 16, 2023, at the age of 84, with the cause of death undisclosed, leaving an estate that included her London residence and modest savings valued under $1 million. Even as public memory celebrates her contributions to television and theater, those closest to the industry recall the fierce independence, occasional volatility, and complex emotional currents that defined both her professional and private life. Gerald Sim, born June 4, 1925, in Liverpool, was 54 when he stepped into the soft-spoken, slightly befuddled shoes of the rector in To the Manor Born. On screen, he exuded gentle warmth and a calm moral center, often navigating the social tensions between aristocracy and the encroaching modern world with tact and humor. Behind the clerical calm, however, Sim's life was marked by an enduring sense of fragility shaped by childhood hardship. Raised in a home where emotional neglect and financial insecurity were constants, he was frequently bullied at school for his small stature and meek demeanor, leaving scars that informed his lifelong tendency to internalize conflict and present a polished exterior. His career, though prolific, spanning more than 100 film and television roles, was not without turbulence. He battled the subtle prejudices of casting directors who preferred more flamboyant actors, endured the bitterness of being typecast, and was rumored to have had tense moments with directors who challenged his quiet authority on set. A notable disappointment came during a high-profile West End audition that ended disastrously, leaving him publicly humiliated and privately questioning whether he should continue acting. In personal life, Sim's long marriage suffered from prolonged periods of emotional distance, and though he remained legally married, there were whispers of extramarital strains and familial estrangements that cast shadows over his otherwise dignified public persona. In later years, Sim retired to Denville Hall, a care home for actors, where he faced declining health and bouts of depression, reflecting a life spent maintaining composure even when internal turmoil threatened. He passed away on December 11, 2014, at age 89, leaving an estate valued around $500,000, accumulated from decades of steady work rather than headline-grabbing stardom. John Barron was born on December 24, 1920, in Marylebone, London, and by the time To the Manor Born aired in 1979, he was 59, stepping into the role of Lumsden, a minor yet unforgettable bureaucrat whose stiff, pedantic manner often veiled sly sarcasm and dry wit. Barron's childhood, however, was anything but genteel. He grew up in a household riddled with tension and financial insecurity, where displays of emotion were punished with cold neglect, and where he learned early on to hide vulnerability beneath a veneer of precision and composure. The young Barron was often mocked by classmates for his quiet demeanor and slight frame experiences that shaped both his relentless discipline and a latent need to control situations in adulthood. Professionally, he struggled with inconsistency. Despite his polished diction and stage presence, he developed a reputation for temperamental outbursts, occasionally leaving rehearsals mid-performance or ignoring contractual obligations when disputes arose over lines or roles. Fellow actors whispered of his manipulative tendencies, especially toward younger colleagues whom he saw as threats, and though he never faced public scandal, there were persistent rumors of clandestine affairs and bitter arguments over pay and billing. His most serious career setback occurred during a 1976 stage production in which a combination of heavy drinking and exhaustion led him to collapse mid-performance, causing cancellations and sparking industry gossip about his reliability. On a personal level, Barron experienced repeated heartbreak. His multiple marriages ended in bitter separations, some of which drew tabloid attention for their acrimony, and the deaths of 2 wives added a layer of private tragedy that haunted him for decades. Despite decades in the performing arts, his financial footprint remained modest, suggesting a life devoted more to craft than accumulation. He died on July 3, 2004, at 83 in Westminster, London, after a stroke, leaving behind an estate that reflected his professional devotion, but little of the wealth or grandeur often associated with his on-screen sophistication, a man whose public elegance contrasted starkly with the private turbulence that defined much of his life. Nicholas McArdle was born in 1940 in Bournemouth, Dorset, England, making him 39 years old when he first appeared on To the Manor Born in 1979 as Miller, the grounded, quietly competent man who provided a stabilizing presence amid the eccentricities of the Manor's upper class. On screen, Miller's character was pragmatic, loyal, and understatedly humorous, often serving as a foil to the pompous and socially rigid aristocrats, giving the audience someone to empathize with in the midst of comedic chaos. Behind the scenes, McArdle's early life was far from idyllic. His father abandoned the family during the Second World War, leaving his mother to raise him and his siblings under financial strain and constant uncertainty. Bullied at school for his timid nature and tendency to stammer, he learned to mask his emotions and develop a commanding presence that would later translate into his deep, resonant voice. Entering the acting world, McArdle faced relentless challenges. He was often labeled difficult for his unwillingness to compromise his artistic vision. And one of the most damaging professional setbacks occurred when he was suddenly dismissed from a high-profile BBC radio drama. after a heated argument with the director, a blow that haunted him for years. Personal life offered little reprieve. A marriage to a theater costume designer collapsed amid infidelity and public recriminations, leaving him estranged from his 2 children for extended periods. Rumors circulated in small acting circles of his struggles with alcohol and temperamental outbursts on set, though he never attracted widespread scandal. Now, in his mid-80s, McArdle lives largely withdrawn from the public eye, residing in Dorset, with modest investments in property and a small collection of antiques, his total net worth estimated to be under $1 million. Despite a career that never reached mainstream fame, those who knew him speak of an actor of quiet brilliance whose potential was both forged and stunted by personal hardships and a fiercely independent temperament, leaving behind a legacy that is subtle yet enduring among British television aficionados. Penelope Keith, born April 1940 in Sutton, Surrey, was 39 when she assumed the role of Audrey of Forbes-Hamilton in 1979, a character whose aristocratic hauteur and acerbic wit captured public imagination while reflecting subtle vulnerabilities beneath the veneer of privilege. Keith's own upbringing was fraught with instability. Abandoned by her father before birth and raised by financially struggling adoptive parents, she experienced a childhood defined by insecurity and displacement, leaving deep impressions that influenced her meticulous attention to control and order in both life and work. Her career, though lauded, was punctuated by a reputation for icy perfectionism. She was known to demand full respect on set, often intimidating co-stars and clashing with producers over the minutiae of lines or screen presence. Industry insiders recount incidents where she threatened to leave productions unless granted priority billing, and while public accounts portray her as the consummate professional behind closed doors, she could be domineering and exacting, sometimes to the point of alienating close colleagues. Keith's personal life was carefully guarded, marked by a deliberate absence of children and a preference for solitude. Yet she experienced heartbreak and tension in private relationships that never made it into public awareness. Despite these challenges, her achievements accumulated significant wealth and recognition, with an estimated net worth of $16 million as of 2023, including real estate holdings, royalties, and honors that reflect decades of dedication to theater, television, and charitable endeavors. At 85, she lives quietly, maintaining a reputation of grace and discretion. Yet the story beneath the public persona hints at the relentless ambition, deep-seated insecurity, and enduring resilience that allowed her to navigate both the ruthless demands of the entertainment industry and the unhealed wounds of a complex personal history, revealing a woman whose life, much like her character Audrey, balances elegance with concealed struggle. Celia Imrie, born on July 15, 1952, in Guildford, Surrey, entered the world of To the Manor Born at 27, as Polly, the sharp-tongued, slightly meddlesome receptionist whose charm and quick wit captured the hearts of viewers while bringing a subtle edge to the village dynamics. Polly's efficiency and keen observational skills made her indispensable to the narrative, yet her sly humor and occasional nosiness provided a contrast that kept audiences engaged, reflecting the tensions between social classes in a light-hearted, relatable manner. Off-screen, Imrie endured a turbulent childhood, marked by an emotionally distant mother and periods of acute poverty that left her feeling overlooked and underprepared for the social world around her. Taunted relentlessly for her appearance and unconventional behavior, she suffered from anorexia in adolescence and was subjected to controversial treatments, including electroconvulsive therapy, leaving lasting psychological scars that she later channeled into her acting. Her career, though prolific, was punctuated by setbacks and professional tension. She was publicly dismissed from a West End production early on, criticized for being too plain to complement the leading cast, a rejection that threatened to derail her ambitions. Personal life was equally complex. She had a clandestine relationship with actor Benjamin Whitrow, which produced her son Angus, a revelation that provoked tabloid scrutiny and widespread speculation due to the unconventional nature of the family arrangement. Imrie's temperament reportedly intimidated younger colleagues with whispers of manipulative behavior and on-set disputes, though she cultivated enduring friendships within the industry. The death of Whitrow in 2017 and intermittent estrangement from family members added layers of personal grief, yet she persevered, building a career spanning theater, film, and writing, earning accolades, and eventually a CBE. Now 73, she splits her time between London and New York, continuing to perform and narrate audiobooks, her net worth estimated at $3 to $5 million, largely drawn from a career that blends creativity with resilience. Through triumphs and tribulations alike, Imrie embodies an artist who converts early trauma into nuanced performances, navigating fame, scandal, and loss, with a calculated grace that keeps her both respected and enigmatic. Rula Lenska, born Rosa Maria Leopoldina Lubienski on September 30, 1947, in Diddington, England, took on the role of Mademoiselle Dutoit in To the Manor Born at the age of 32, bringing a sophisticated European elegance that added layers of intrigue to the show's final season. Mademoiselle Dutoit's refined demeanor and enigmatic personality captivated audiences, standing apart from the otherwise traditionally English cast and giving the narrative a cosmopolitan flair. Off-screen, Lenska's upbringing was colored by the displacement of her Polish aristocratic family, whose post-war exile in England fostered an environment of financial instability and emotional tension, leaving her to navigate a sense of loss and cultural dislocation from an early age. Her career, while steady, was often overshadowed by typecasting and moments of professional turbulence. She infamously alienated a director during a pivotal Hollywood audition while under the influence of alcohol, costing her a potentially career-defining opportunity. Lenska's personal life was publicly tumultuous. Her marriage to actor Dennis Waterman ended in 1998 after revelations of domestic abuse, casting her unwillingly into the spotlight as a figure of resilience amid scandal. Later in 2016, she faced legal trouble with a conviction for drunk driving, while her grandson was in the car, prompting a media frenzy that contrasted sharply with her cultivated on-screen poise. Health issues, including battles with cancer, compounded her struggles, though she continued to act in theater and television, demonstrating remarkable perseverance. Now 77, Lenska remains active professionally. Her net worth estimated at approximately $500,000, a reflection of decades of work, marked by both achievement and adversity. Her life story intertwines aristocratic lineage, scandal, personal struggle, and professional determination, painting a portrait of an actress who has survived public scrutiny, private pain, and the caprices of a career in entertainment, emerging as a figure defined as much by resilience as by talent. Alan David, born Alan Davies, on 29th of December 1941, entered To the Manor Born's extended universe as a supporting figure in the 2007 special, carrying decades of repertory experience into a role that leaned on rural gravitas and theatrical precision. His character work always relied on a different kind of electricity, the worn-in reliability of a stage actor who could flip in a heartbeat from dry humor to a hard-edged seriousness that made even small parts feel essential. That grounding in the Theatre Royal Shakespeare Company credits and a steady stream of period dramas came out of a childhood and early life in Merthyr Tydfil, shaped by working-class constraints, and the gritty reality of Wales in the mid-20th century, formative environments where emotional restraint, resilience, and a brittle humor were survival tools rather than affectations. Career-wise, David's path reads like a steady climb rather than a dizzy rocket. Countless stage nights, reliable television turns. But that steadiness carried costs, roles turned down, the natural fading of headline glory, and the weary frustration actors feel when typecast after a run of similar parts. He's also been cited in industry recollections as a perfectionist who could be exacting in rehearsal, a quality that earned him respect, but occasionally soured collaborations. On the scandal ledger, there is almost nothing sensational. David cultivated a low public profile and avoided tabloid storms, yet the quieter strains were always present, missed opportunities, the heartbreak of roles that might have been, and the private losses that come with a life forever on call for the stage. At 83 in 2025, he remains alive and associated with a vast, if understated, body of work. There is no reliable public dossier of extravagant wealth. His legacy is cultural rather than commercial, and any estate he holds is the accumulation of decades of acting rather than headline-making assets. Alexander Armstrong was born on 2nd of March 1970 and played Adam Forbes-Hamilton in the 2007 To the Manor Born Christmas special at age 37, a crisp introduction that masks a life lived in contrasting registers. On screen, his Adam arrived as the polished urbane foil, urbane wit, clipped timing, and a cadence that made privilege sound like a punchline. And viewers loved the reassuring ease he brought to a creature comforts aristocrat. Off-screen, that public charm has, for some critics, read as too posh a polished surface that has sometimes rubbed parts of the British press the wrong way and been framed as an emblem of an old-school establishment sensibility. Armstrong's childhood chorister music scholarships, educated at Trinity College, Cambridge, reads like a classical ascent, but it also meant early immersion in institutions that demand conformity, solitary practice, strict discipline, and the kind of private school stoicism that can calcify into emotional reserve. Professionally, his highs are unmistakable. Armstrong and Miller, a successful television career host of Pointless Recording Artist, but the arc hasn't been without friction. The industry whisperbook notes moments where his musical ambitions and TV persona collided, leaving projects postponed or retooled, and a handful of critics and colleagues have publicly questioned whether his laconic posh comic persona unfairly flattens other performers, a minor controversy compared with tabloid fodder, but telling in a career built on likability. In personal terms, his marriage and family life have largely remained protected from scandal. He presents a steady public front, balancing broadcasting with farming and music. Today, he is alive, aged 55, as of 2025, still active across radio, TV, and music, and public estimates put his net worth in the low millions, a tidy media-earned estate, rather than a blockbuster fortune, with income streams from presenting recordings and voice work that sustain a comfortable, measured lifestyle. John Rudling, born August 31, 1907 in South Norwood, London, was 72 when he assumed the role of Brabinger in 1979, the stoic and endlessly loyal butler, whose dry wit and quiet efficiency grounded the world of To the Manor Born. Audiences adored his seemingly gentle and unflappable presence, but behind the bow tie and impeccable manners lay a man shaped by hardship and deep-seated insecurities. Rudling's childhood was steeped in financial struggle, his family struggling to keep a roof over their heads in post-Edwardian London. Mocked relentlessly for his thin frame and timid voice, he learned to mask vulnerability with humor and a polished veneer that would later define Brabinger. Despite his charm on stage and screen, his career was littered with setbacks. He was frequently passed over for leading roles often dismissed as too old-fashioned or too meek, and he bore the sting of whispered gossip, labeling him a perpetual supporting actor. Friends noted his penchant for gambling, a habit that both excited and terrified him, draining savings meant for retirement and leaving his modest estate precariously small. Rudling also struggled with alcoholism, something he fought privately, and colleagues recalled moments when his temper flared unpredictably, particularly when dealing with younger brash actors who failed to respect his experience. The pinnacle of his professional heartbreak came during the second season of To the Manor Born, when a heart attack forced his absence. Rumors swirled that producers considered recasting his role entirely, a humiliation that reportedly haunted him. Personal relationships offered little solace. His marriage was strained by financial insecurities, and his inability to reconcile his public persona with the private, anxious man within. Rudling passed away on December 18, 1983, aged 76 from respiratory complications in Richmond, London. At his death, he left behind an estate modestly valued under $100,000, largely comprised of a small flat and some personal effects. Thank you for joining us on this nostalgic journey through classic television history. If you enjoyed learning about the cast of To the Manor Born and where they are now, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe for more vintage Hollywood retrospectives, and share your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing your memories and suggestions, so let us know which TV show or movie cast you'd like us to feature next.